Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Kustas, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies.
Hello. Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Kustas, and today's episode is one I didn't see coming, but now, and wow, it totally landed right where I needed it. So I want you to picture this. I want you to picture I'm on a plane. I am flying home from a beautiful weekend where my husband and I were both in a wedding for some dear friends. He's asleep next to me, and I decided to watch a movie that I knew would probably not be his jam. He's not completely into chick flicks, but he'll watch them every once in a while with them. But I thought, I'm gonna finally watch Eat, Pray, Love. Yep, first time. I know it's been out for forever. Some of you are like, really? Seriously? That movie was out so long ago? Maybe some of you haven't even heard of it, but somehow I'd never sat down to really watch it or to read the book. And here's what's so funny. It turns out when I got home and I was telling my daughter all about this, she was like, Mom, that's one of my favorite books. She actually, for the last several years, has read it every single year. And her friends do too. She said she has notes in it. They pass it around, they annotate it. I mean, it's kind of crazy that I didn't realize that. I feel like she's mentioned that to me maybe once before, but maybe went in one ear and out the other. So here I was, I'm 51 years old, finally pressing play and unknowingly opening the door to a really powerful, unexpected experience. Oh, and by the way, right next to me was a teenager, I think, maybe early 20s. Well, no, he had to have been a teenager because he was studying for his ACT. So he was studying next to me. Then I've got my husband next to me. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, like, Eat, Pray, Love, we're going to have a whole podcast over this. Well, I felt like it was so profound and magical because when I finally watched it, years after it was out, 51 years old, I felt like it was meant to be. It was meant to be that I was supposed to wait and watch it now because something clicked differently. Not in like a regular movie kind of way, but in a whoa. God just used this character, Julia Roberts, to speak to my soul while I sit on an Alaska Airlines kind of way. So, before you go thinking that this is going to be a spoiler alert for those of you that have not watched it, let me stop you there. I'm not breaking down the plot per se. I'm just going to be spotlighting what this movie literally cracked open for me. So, I want you to just think of this as your guide to maybe some of the like great parts of this movie in the scenes. So maybe you're someone that's watched it 5 times and you're like, meh, I've seen it, done it. Please still stay with me here because it might even crack open something differently for you or have you revisit something that you thought about but needs to come back in for whatever reason. Because when my daughter and I had this conversation, she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And it just was this beautiful conversation. Now she's 23, so clearly this movie hits at all different generations. Some of you maybe have never watched it at all, so I'm going to encourage you to do that. Some of you may have been like, God, I forgot all about that movie. So this is your sign to come back to it with new eyes because sometimes, I find that the stories that hit us hardest aren't always the newest stories. They're the ones that meet us like right where we are. So that's why I really believe I was meant to watch it that night on the plane. So let's jump into the 10 things Eat, Pray, Love reminded me about and what it means to be a woman navigating life, navigating relationships, love, your faith, maybe, or maybe you're in a place of letting go of something. So let's start from one moment that had me literally teary eyed and totally undone on the airplane. I was so embarrassed because I was trying to hide my tears as this teenager was sitting next to me. But number one was forgiveness is freedom, not approval. Okay. So let's start with this scene that absolutely, when I say cracked me open, I am going to say it cracked me open, like wide, wide open. So Liz is in this memory, and she's the main character, Julia Roberts, and she's dancing with her ex-husband to their song. So the song that was supposed to play as their first song, you'll know what I'm talking about when you go back, but it wasn't a random tune. This one they were supposed to dance to at their wedding and they didn't. For whatever reason, you'll go back and see. But this was such a beautiful, just really tender moment. But it was really a tearjerker for me. She says, send him light and love and then let it go. You guys, I was on this flight. My husband again was asleep next to me, and I'm suddenly like blinking back all of these tears because here's the truth. The reason why that hit me so hard is because I've lived that moment where you just let go and you release and you say to yourself, like, I'm going to send him all the good thoughts. I'm going to send that person light and love, and I'm just going to let it go. And I'm not going to have that soul tie anymore. And it happened to me with my kids and their dad. Well, my kid's dad, I should say, because there were all of these years of pain and heartbreak, navigating co parenting throughout the years, and just a lot of emotions. And when I finally was able to do that, this happened several years ago, I learned that forgiveness isn't just this one time release. It's really this sacred practice that we have. And it's this decision that we say to ourselves that we are not going to let this experience define us, but we're going to let it shape us, right? We are the person that we are now because of what happened. And what really moved me in that scene was this gentleness. The way that she still honored what was real, even if it wasn't forever, because that's the thing too. Real forgiveness doesn't mean the hurt didn't happen, right? It means that we're letting go. We're not letting it harden our hearts. And for those of you that might be struggling with forgiveness right now with someone, please hear me in this. And just maybe if you're a woman that you pray, pray about it because we can hold on to a ton of pain. And some women, I honestly like I was just around not a woman, I was actually around a friend that holds on to pain like it's part of his identity. And we keep this score for other people. And sometimes it's in silence because we maybe feel shame around it. But in that moment and that line, it reminded me so much that forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It actually gives you freedom. So maybe you need that reminder like I did. You can send light and love to someone who hurt you and still walk forward in your truth and in your strength, in your grace. That's not being naive. That is really where you get to a place of healing. So that's my number one takeaway. That's probably one of my biggest takeaways, one of the biggest ones for me. So, one of these takeaways might be the biggest one for you because it's currently what you're going through in your life. And for me, that was just big because it is really something that I've been working on. And it has evolved in my life in the last 10 years. So that's my number one. Number two, this was another big one for me. Mental clutter is blocking your life. Okay. So I want to talk about this because basically she goes to three different places. Okay. She goes to Italy, she goes to India, and then she goes to Bali. Eat, pray, love. That's the order. Okay. So let's talk about India. Whew, this one got me like right there in the heart again because Liz is talking to her new friend and they're discussing things. So, just having this like really deep conversation. And he says to her, you have too much in your head. You need to clear some space or you're going to miss your life. When he said that again, it was like chills all over my body. Chills. It was this massive mic drop. It's not that I started crying, but I was just like, ooh, that hits. Because let me tell you, if overthinking was an Olympic sport, I would literally have more medals than who has tons of medals? Michael Phelps, that's who I think of. I would have more medals than him if overthinking were a sport. Because I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. There's always things running through my head in a crazy way. And it's like the background of my brain is constantly going, even down to grocery lists. I'm constantly writing notes. I've got this like right next to me. If you saw my desk, you would see journals sitting next to me and to-do list. Um, Even not just that, but like flashbacks. It could be a conversation I had years ago, but when I heard that line specifically, I realized just how loud my inner world can get and how much it costs me. The truth is that sometimes it's not the external chaos. So it's not like all the things that are going on around us that are holding us back, but it's those mental tabs that we keep open all the time. You guys, if I'm looking at my computer right now, I literally like this is just coming to me right now. I probably have 25 tabs open on my computer right now. That is an issue. This is an issue that I'm admitting to you, but that's the mental clutter that we need to release that. So it hit me in a way of like, ooh, that's something I really need to continue to work on. Okay. The Just think of it as like all the emotional post-it notes that you keep sticking on the walls of your mind. That's what we do. And what the scene reminded me of is that peace isn't about escaping the noise. It's actually about making space inside of your soul and mind to actually hear what matters. As a matter of fact, when I'm done with this podcast, I am going to go through and I am going to eliminate a ton of those. And I'm going to go, what are the top 5 that matter today? Because that's part of eliminating that clutter. And that's what I'm learning, that if you want clarity, if you want connection, if you want to actually experience your life instead of just managing it all the time, we've got to clear out some room. We've got to clear it on our calendars, but we also have to clear it in our spirit and be at peace with it. And it's hard. It's so hard. If you are someone that knows how to do this well, or you've been practicing it, please, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you because this is a work that I am really going to be focused on for the rest of the summer. I am making a commitment to myself for that. Okay. All right. Takeaway number 3. You don't just need a partner. You need a champion. Okay, I'm sharing with you my top 3. So those are going to be a little bit longer. I'll shorten it up when I get to the other ones, but these were like my top 3. When I heard that, I rewound it again because I was like, did I hear that right? And I played it again. Okay, so now we're in Bali. And so this is about the love, right? This is about the love. And this one is when Liz is talking to a man who says something so simple, but so fierce. And it felt like it was like written in neon lights across the screen for me when she said this. And he tells her, "You don't need a man, you need a champion." I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but you need to hear this. Because, yes, as a woman, oh, I get so passionate about this. We have been, because also I was with someone this week at the wedding that I experienced this as well. We've been conditioned to look for someone who's kind and stable and responsible, and all of that is important. All of that's important, but we need to go even deeper, you guys, because at some point you realize I just don't want a man standing next to me who's kind. I mean, yes, oh my gosh, that's a step above for a lot of us, okay? Maybe at one time in our lives to just have a kind human, a stable, responsible man. But you guys, I'm telling you, as a 51-year-old woman, and I don't know where you are at in your relationships, at your age, where you're at in this, but I think most women can vouch that as you look at life in a different perspective, you want someone who is going to stand for you, not just stand with you. It almost makes me want to cry because I've lived both sides of this. I know what it's like to carry the whole load by yourself, to be strong because you had to be, you didn't have a choice, to also feel so unseen in a partnership. I know I've lived that, but I also know what it's like to be loved by a champion. And I was looking at my husband and I was like, oh my gosh, I have that. He believes in me completely, even when I don't always believe in myself. He literally supports everything I do and he cheers for me when I win. And he reminds me who I am when I forget. And I know that sounds like it's too good to be true for some of you out there, but I'm telling you, there are men out there that will be your champion. Okay? He he is someone that I always go, "Oh my gosh, he like covers me in more than just prayer. He covers me in peace. He covers me in belief in my presence." And I used to think that that was a fantasy. But I can tell you right now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is possible. And too many women are out there settling for being, tolerated, half seen, barely supported, because we've been told that's enough. And I'm going to tell you today, it's not. And I feel like I am talking to someone through this screen right now. You were not created to shrink yourself into a relationship. You were created to rise inside of one. So if you're someone that's like still waiting for a man, don't wait for a man who fits your checklist. Wait for the one who sees you and like your entire soul, your entire being, and is your champion. That is a game changer. And I'm going to say this, it's not too much to ask. Set that as your standard because that's the kind of love that you are worth. That's the kind of love that I've realized that I am worth and he is worth because I am his champion. It goes both ways. So that was a strong one for me. All right. Okay. So those were my top three. Those are my top three. But now we have takeaway number 4. You're allowed to want more. So it kind of piggybacks on this 3, even when your life looks good. Okay. So even when your life looks good. So at the beginning of Liz's journey, I remember before the flights, before she decided that she was going to go on this trip, she is in her real life and she's married, she's successful, she is living what other people would think looks like a dream, and yet she is completely like starting to unravel on the inside. And it's funny because during that moment, I remember, and that's why I kept watching because I was like, oh, I'm supposed to watch this right now. Because I just felt it so deep in my bones. Because here's the thing, there's a hard truth that you can have a life that kind of checks most of the boxes or maybe even all the boxes and still feel like something essential is missing. And I went through that moment back in 2020, 21. I had, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, where I was in a beautiful marriage. I have a home that I love. My kids were thriving. Things were going well. And I still felt like I'm struggling with something. I'm emotionally going through something that I'm still in tears. I'm still wondering what it is. And I was like mad at myself and ashamed of myself for feeling that way because on the outside, everything looked like it was great. But I realized that I was also bearing um, some stuff, right? And I was like, who am I to want more? Like, I already have all the things that I thought I had wanted. And I had to finally give myself permission to admit that I'm still longing, even though I'm in a ton of gratitude. And that is when I ended up jumping ship from my career, not getting into that, but realizing that that wasn't something that made me selfish. I was being honest. And I think so many of us, especially women who care so deeply and who carry all of this responsibility, who want to do the right thing, what we do is we end up confusing contentment with complacency. We think wanting more means we're being ungrateful, right? I mean, if you're hearing me, you're hearing me. When really it might mean we're finally getting super, super honest with ourselves. And that's part of being human. Of course, we're grateful for the things that we have, but life is a process. It's like an unlayering of all of the things, and we're constantly growing and evolving. And it doesn't mean like we want more stuff or we want more status. It just maybe means that you want to align with your core values. Maybe you are just desiring more freedom in your life, or maybe you're desiring more truth in your life. So if something is in you and it's stirring or it's nudging you, don't shut it down. Don't shame it. Just listen to it, and maybe there is a longing, and that's going to be something like that can begin in your life that becomes uh part of you. Maybe it's something that needs to be revealed that is going to change or evolve in your life. So again, don't feel like if you're still longing for something when things look good, that this is selfish of you. Okay. All right. Okay. Takeaway number 5. Stillness isn't lazy. It is sacred. So there is this moment during Liz's time in India. Okay. So this is the pray part where everything just like slows down. Okay. So everything, she goes from being in Italy and she's into all the food and friendships and all of the things, and she's starting to discover herself. And then she slows down in this place. Okay. And it's like, she's reminded of silence, and you can feel her uncomfort in this space because think about it. How many of you, like when you get quiet and we start to unclutter things, especially if we're the doers, we're the caretakers, stillness starts to feel like really unnatural, like we're doing something wrong. We feel this guilt. I don't know. I feel guilty when I rest sometimes, not as much anymore because I've learned to give myself that, but there's a discomfort in silence because we have this urge that we want to fill up every gap of time with productivity or planning, and that is what success looks like. But here's what it reminded me of, and it's so funny because we're actually in the Glow Up School right now. We are doing this work about decluttering and getting quiet and getting still. And it reminded me that stillness isn't the absence of progress, it's actually the birthing place for it. When we get quiet, it's kind of like going back up to that uncluttering and getting rid of some of the things that are like constantly going in our head. That when we get quiet, we actually start to have these new beautiful ideas, or we start to unravel things that we weren't able to unravel because we have the capacity to do that. And that's when Liz starts to surrender and she starts to meet her truth. Because remember, like, it's not like, you know, when we want to get clear on something, it's just going to be like yelling at you. Sometimes it might be, but oftentimes it's just going to be this like really quiet whisper that's there's just going to be things nudging in your soul. And if we're constantly rushing and performing and moving and working and doing all of the things, we miss it. How many of you have looked back into your life and gone, man, I should have seen those signs? And you didn't because you were in the constant busy. So I just want to encourage you, if even if it's just 5 minutes in the day, take 5 minutes to just stop and slow down because this is where your wisdom is going to come in. This is why I love journaling. I love being able to do that because this is when we start, like, we just kind of stop striving to be and we start to hear what we need to hear. And that's when things start to shift and we start to have these aha moments. So, this is just your permission slip to stop and pause a little bit because one of the most beautiful things I felt like that came out of Eat, Pray, Love is that Liz doesn't have just one breakthrough moment. It's not like she is like, in Italy and has all these breakthroughs. It's the entire movie that she goes through, the entire book that she goes through, and she has all these breakthroughs. And she's still not even a perfectly healed woman, but it's definitely better, okay? Because she's evolving again and again through every leg of her journey. So, anyways, that's where, life can be messy, it can be layered. It's definitely not linear. We all know that. There isn't like a finish line, right? We're just constantly becoming. So that's what I love about that. Okay. Takeaway number 7, letting go is not failure. Letting go is not failure. It's the beginning of wholeness. I feel like one of the deepest truths in Liz's journey is how much she has to let go. She had to let go of her relationships. She had to let go of her expectations, her identities, even her guilt. And here's what stood out to me, none of it looked clean. None of it looked clean. None of it looked easy. There were tears. There was regret. Sometimes she had a lot of doubt. But what I recognized is what every time she let go of something, that is where something really started to begin again. And that's what some of us need to hear because we've been taught to, in my opinion, I feel like so much of the time we're taught that if we let go of something that we just gave up, that we failed or we walked away too soon. I mean, again, how many of you have stayed in a situation, a job, a relationship, a friendship for so long because you were like, I can't give up. I mean, heck, when we're in sports, like you're taught never to quit, right? But sometimes we get that confused in reality because sometimes letting go actually ends up being the most courageous thing that we can do. And it took me a really long time to figure that out because here's the thing, it took me a lot of strength and forgiveness of myself. And it took permission for me and for others. Others had already given me permission and they were actually telling me to let go, but I couldn't do that for myself. And I had to like, it's like, I was so clenched up in this control and this like, this is the way it was supposed to be. I had to like release and let that go because I recognized that there were things that I had outgrown. And what was hard is because at one time, that meant everything to me, everything. And then here I was years later, and it didn't mean the same to me. So you just have to accept that sometimes things run its course. And sometimes we reach a point where it doesn't feel like home. So just remember that letting go isn't about giving up. It's about, again, making space for new things to come in. And you also, I have to think about it that like at the time, it was exactly where I was supposed to be. But I've also realized that when we're opening up new chapters in our life, that requires new energy. And it requires sometimes for us to be a new version of ourselves. And we have to let go of things. It's kind of like it's reminding me right now of my husband. Every time my kids or myself bring home a new water bottle, because how many times do we go somewhere and we're like, oh my gosh, this water bottle is so cool. We have to have it. Or we go to an event and they give us a water bottle and we're like, oh, we love this. Well, there's a new rule in our house that every time we have a new water bottle, we have to get rid of another water bottle. Like it's an exchange, right? Because we just can't keep packing it in because we're running out of room in our cupboards. So it's kind of the same thing as like when you're starting to walk into a next chapter or you're starting to like want to bring something else into your life. What is it that you need to let go of? Because it's going to require some new energy. All right. Takeaway number 8, pleasure isn't indulgence. Okay, let's talk about Italy. Let's talk about Italy. When she goes to Italy, it's all the food, the joy, it's the permission. I was cracking up because one of my favorite parts of Liz's journey is when she just lets herself enjoy. She doesn't care about the calories anymore. She's not like rushing through everything. She is just about the pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Even her and her girlfriend, there was one part where they're like trying to button up their pants and they've gained like 10 pounds because she literally cannot fit into her jeans anymore. She can't because she's gained like all this weight. Her friend has gained all this weight and she's like, "Who cares about the muffin top? Like what? Your boyfriend's not going to love you anymore?" Like, no. So, listen. Again, we have been taught that pleasure is something we have to earn and that rest is a reward, not a right. That joy needs to be justified. That's not true. Watching Liz devour her bowl of pasta, it cracked me up because I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to eat pasta like that and just like go for it. Because here's the thing, like what I saw, this is kind of like how I would put it, is I saw her eating that pasta and I was like, oh my gosh, she is in such joy right now. And it was like nourishing, it was like feeding her soul. The joy was feeding her soul to just be living her best life. And it wasn't meant to be like on the side, like this secretive thing. It's about actually feeling good and to laugh and to have fun and to be present without feeling the guilt. Because you're not going to like live a full free life if you feel shame every single time you receive something good. Every time you eat something, are you going to like kick yourself later for doing that? If you have this wonderful dessert that your husband wants to share with you, or you're like out with your kids for ice cream, are you going to shame yourself every single time? I mean, this is where we need to start getting real and just remembering that pleasure is okay. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It actually like starts to bring us back to life and go, okay, I can live this life, whether it's a meal. Now, of course, for her, it was in Italy and it was all around food, but it can be things like indulging in a really good book and giving yourself permission. I tell my mom this all the time, like, give yourself permission to not be the caretaker for an half an hour every day and go, you love to read. Read a book. It's not being lazy. Just because you're not taking care of something or someone during that 30 minutes, it is going to actually restore your soul. It's actually going to give you the rest that you need to make you show up better, right? That's what that's about. So let yourself indulge every once in a while. It's okay. Takeaway number 9. You don't have to leave your life to transform it. Now, this is something that I definitely want to say because let me tell you, it definitely wanted me at the beginning. I was like, I need to have a massive trip and I want to travel the world and I want to have this experience. Well, Eat, Pray, Love is not a travel guide. It's not saying that you have to hop on a plane and start like traveling all over the world to have these experiences. You don't have to go to Bali to find the love of your life. You don't have to do those things because the real journey, it's not necessarily that it's out there. It's actually in here and it's making the decisions. And for those of you that aren't watching, I'm saying it's in your heart, it's in your soul. I mean, her trip is based on a true story and it was dramatic and it was exotic. Not all of us have the finances to be able to go take a trip around the world or just leave our lives and take a trip around the world for an entire year. Okay. The real transformation for her actually happened in her heart. It happened in moments. It happened in the times that she had breakdowns. It happened in the times that she had breakthroughs. And no one else really saw those things that were happening. Sometimes they did. But that's what I want you to hear is you don't have to leave your life to change your life. You don't have to start over completely to start fresh, right? You just need to start being more present and just start being honest with yourself. Start listening to the voice inside of you that might be nudging you and saying, hey, there is more for you. Listen to that. Don't tuck that away because transformation, what I'm learning really quickly, it isn't about requiring a location change. Now, sometimes it might, depending on your situation, but most of the time, it really is just about you having the courage to do it and to not ignore what you already might be hearing and start honoring that. Because, man, I talk to so many women and I hear my clients talk about how, like, why didn't I listen to this sooner? I felt like this was going on, but I just, again, got caught up in the busyness. Or maybe you weren't ready to face it. So if you have been looking at your life or you've ever looked at your life and thought, oh my gosh, I just need to escape, ask yourself this. What if you didn't need to escape? And what if you just needed to return to you, to your joy, to your happiness, to your purpose? Because that is the transformation. It starts like right where you are right now, and you can start building on that. And that leads me to the final takeaway, number 10. Your healing doesn't have to make sense to anyone else because you don't owe anybody an explanation for the way you want to return to yourself. We only owe it to ourselves, the peace and the freedom and the joy. And if you're not hearing me, please let me tell you this as well. You're not broken because you're changing. You're not broken if you want to start to be better or you want to start a transformation of your own. You're not broken. You're just becoming more of who you are meant to be. So sometimes your path is going to make sense to others. There's been times in my life that people are like, yep, we were hoping you were going to do this. We have been wanting you to do this for a long time. But then others aren't going to make sense to people. When I left teaching, didn't make sense to so many people. Are you kidding me? Like, you're a teacher, you have a great salary, you have benefits. Like, what are you doing? But here's the thing, when something is rooted in truth and in love and in clarity, you just keep walking forward because not everyone is going to understand your healing, and that's on them, and it's okay. It wasn't meant for them, it's meant for you. Those changes and transformations that I made in my life at those different times, it wasn't meant for anybody else. It was meant for me. And you are worth every step back home to yourself. So there you have it. Those were the 10 truths that found me on a plane from a movie I waited way too long to watch. And honestly, I do think, though, it was right on time. Eat, Pray, Love. Oh my gosh, you guys, it gave me permission to just like have all the feels and to release some things, to reflect on some things. And whether you are in a season of, maybe you're rebuilding something right now, or maybe you're reimagining your life, or just remembering who you are underneath all of those roles that we carry, I want you to know you're not alone and you don't have to figure it all out. And you don't even have to justify your journey to anyone else. Liz did not, let me tell you. She was like, nope, I'm doing it. Her friends thought she was crazy. And I also want to say that this episode wasn't just about a movie or the book, it's about a mirror, and it's about returning to the woman that you've always been and giving her the room to rise up if you are in that space. So I'm just going to say, if you've never watched Eat, Pray, Love, you guys, or you haven't read the book, this is your sign to go there. And go there with fresh eyes if you've already watched it, and rewatch it again. I'd be so curious. And, even just revisiting it like my daughter does, she does it every year. I could not believe that. I had no idea. But she said it's like a reset for her and it's a little soul check-in. And I thought that was so cool. She's a lot deeper than I was at 23. But if you haven't watched it, go watch. It is so good. It's so worth your 2 hours and 20 minutes. And if there's something kind of stirring in you today, just think about it, journal about it, just kind of take that 5 minutes of time. And of course, I would love to hear your thoughts and takeaways if you've watched the movie, or if you do decide to watch the movie. I would love to hear about it. You can always go on Instagram. You can find me there in the DMs. You can always reply and let's chat, because it'd be so fun. Tag us on Instagram, social media, Facebook, and let us know what you experienced through that. Because I do think that these are the kinds of things that are a reminder to women that it's like an awakening. It's like, oh, I'm going to do that today, or I'm going to do that in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go back and watch that. And, you just never know. You just never know what it can stir inside of you. So I just want to say thanks so much for spending some time with me. And as always, keep rising, keep shining, and know that the best day is right here waiting for you. And I cannot wait to chat again next week. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.